Good evening, friends. I am requested by Sushil ji to give a talk, and I selected this topic on happiness. I'd like to first say that we all go through happiness and unhappiness, and this remains in our life. We may not be able to be completely happy, but it is possible to eliminate factors which create unhappiness. And generally, we are not aware of these factors which creates unhappiness. Uh, I like to say I'm not a speaker, but I have made certain points. So I will go according to and explain a little bit, and I may take about 15 to 20 minutes to speak on this topic. There is a story about a beggar who was sitting on a wooden box, and he was begging from the passers-by on a road. And then one wise man passed by, and he asked the beggar, "Have you looked what is there in the wooden box?" And the beggar said, "No." Then the wise man said, "Please look." And there was a lot of treasure was there in the wooden box, and the beggar did not know. So it is like that for us also, that there is a source of happiness within us, but very few people are able to connect with this source of happiness. And generally, we most people feel that happiness comes from outside, from people, from possessing money or power or position or fame. But we know from reading many stories, newspapers, that many rich people also, most of them, they are very unhappy. They have lots of worries, lot of enemies, lot of fear of losing what they have. And so it is not that the money and the power and the fame can bring happiness in our life. And uh, it is very important that to be happy, our body must be healthy. And more than that, the mind should be also very healthy. And we abuse our body a lot because we are not able to see clearly, like what smoking or drinking or drugs or even fear, anger, jealousy, what it does to our body and mind. So it has to do, this happiness, it has to do with being very acutely aware of how what are the factors which produce unhappiness. Okay, so another point, that once in my culture class, I was asking students, what is the most important thing in your life? So one girl said, a family. So I asked her, why are you saying that family is very important? And the girl says, family brings happiness. So then I said, it means that happiness is more important than family, because in many family also there is unhappiness, like husband and wife, they are quarreling, father and son, mother and daughter, daughter-in-law and mother-in-law. There's a lot of conflicts in the family also. So the real source, it comes when we understand our own mind clearly and see how unhappiness comes. Happiness, we can also cultivate many habits, though Krishna ji is against habits, but like getting up early in the morning, going for a walk, looking at the nature, walking in the park, looking at the birds, listening to good music, and reading good books, having good thoughts and feelings. All these are very important because um, if our thoughts are not good, then it will create problems. And the most important thing is relationship. What is the quality of relationship we have with the family, with the friends, with nature, and with our own self? So, relationship, the quality is most important in making us happy. But as I said before, unhappiness cannot be avoided because of certain factors. Like even a little child gets attached to the mother, but when the mother goes away, the child cries. And when the teeth are born in the mouth of the child, there's a lot of pain, and the child cries, and the mother has many sleepless nights. And so on as we grow old, um, we develop many problems with the body. Our capacity to listen, to look, our eyes, senses, they deteriorate, and some disease also come. Even in the life of saints like Krishnamurti or Raman Maharshi or Ramakrishna, they had cancer in their old age and they had to suffer. But I think people who are wise, they can take the suffering with dignity and they don't make too much fuss about it. So, uh, unhappiness due to the condition of happiness as much as we are able. And if we are really want happiness, it is possible. Um, of course, we need the basic necessities for our livelihood. We need the basic necessities. We need to work. We need to earn money. And but how we earn money is also very important because if we earn money through corruption, then that will create also problem. So a right livelihood is necessary, the right environment, the quality of friends we have, all this is very important. The environment is very important. And there are many pleasures of eating, drinking, and so on. Um, but that pleasure, it creates pain also. The pleasure and pain, they are two sides of the same coin. But happiness is something is independent of people around or the things which you possess. And it comes from understanding our own mind. And that means we need to have curiosity to look inward, the ability to be alone, to be silent, to turn the attention inward, to look at the thoughts and watch everything without condemning it or without uh, encouraging it, just like an observer looking at the cloud in the sky. The clouds come and go. Similarly, these thoughts, they come and they go. Nothing is permanent. So even if there is unhappiness, it is not permanent. And if it is happiness, is also not permanent. They keep on changing. But this awareness is something when it is awakened in us, then in the background of that awareness, we can see everything very clearly. And then so we don't get carried away with excitement when there is happiness, and we don't become very sad when there is unhappiness, when we lose somebody or lose money or a friend or a relative. We don't cry because we know that there is nothing permanent. We ourselves are not permanent. And so when there is a real understanding, then there is a possibility of avoiding suffering due to things happening around us. And that is why people who are interested in happiness, they get attracted to spiritual, religious life. And even the wise people, the Swamis, their names are like Vivekananda, Anand or Shivanand or Vivekanand. These are wise people, and they have learned by reading, by meditating, by looking, observing in their daily life. What is it that creates unhappiness? And then, if there is an ego, the feeling that I am very good, very intelligent, and someone says, no, you are stupid or you are not intelligent, and we get hurt, then that getting hurt makes us look, wise people can look, that why do I get hurt or why do I get happiness and unhappiness coming from the opinion of people, our friends, relatives. It doesn't make much difference if we are really aware. And so the real happiness comes from within us. And in real happiness, we don't want more. That is the real sign that we don't want more money, more fame, more power, because that feeling of getting more, it means that we are poor and we think that we get something more, we will become rich, we will become happy. But it is not like that. So, real happiness is when we are really happy and not trying to strive for money or power and fame, all that. Um, yes, and true happiness, the moments of happiness comes when we forget ourselves and when we are walking in nature or listening to music and um, walking, traveling, talking, when we lose that sense of I or me, that is the real happiness. And in our country and in many other countries, there have been people who have found a real happiness within them, like Buddha. Buddha was one of the wise men, and he was a prince, and he had a beautiful wife and child, and he had the power, but yet when he saw suffering, and then he began to think that when I become old, will I be also uh, uh, worry about many problems? My body will deteriorate and all that. So he wanted to find out something which can give real happiness. And so he meditated, he went to some gurus, then he left the gurus, he, he practiced fasting, uh, torturing his body, nothing helped. And then finally, when he was sitting under a tree, and one day when he opened his eyes, something new had happened, and he looked at the morning star. Some change really happened, and real clarity came in his life. And then only he started going around and talking about how to live with happiness. And there was a Mirabai, she was a princess, and she could have lived in luxury, but she decided because she loved Krishna and she was dancing in public with sadhus and sannyasis. And people said that she had gone mad, but she was not worried and she had found real happiness. And that is why she said, Ram Ratan Dhan Payo, Kharche na Khute, Chor na Lute, Din Din Badat Savayo. So there is a real stolen by thieves and it increases with time. So Mirabai had that, Kabir also had that, and he said, Tere paas hire moti, mere man mandir mein jyoti, kaun hua dhanwan. So there was a light in the mind of Kabir, and so he was fearless. He could criticize Hindus and Muslims both without fear, and he was persecuted by both. But later on, they knew that Kabir was a real wise man, and they had disciples, Hindu and Muslims, both. So, all this indicates that in each one of us, there is a source of happiness within us, but around this source, there are snakes, they are guarding this treasure which is inside us. And those snakes are like fear, anger, jealousy, loneliness, boredom. So only when we are able to tame the snakes within us, that means when we have real understanding, then we can touch the treasure which has been touched by many, many people. And so this is the real uh, living. The purpose of life, I consider, is to have goodness, love, beauty, happiness, freedom. All these qualities are the one must go for, not for money and power, and it it brings pleasure and pain, but happiness is something extraordinary jewel, like Kabir had said. So I think I have said enough thing right now. Thank you.
Anybody whomsoever wanted to say something on the topic may raise hand and then say.
Are you able to hear my voice, sir?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Very well. Very well.
I have to speak a little bit, think and talk on this topic because in English, there are so many words which are very close and they are having we are having difficulty in understanding them because the meaning is very close. We will see first what are the dictionary says, and then we will see what JK says, and then I will make my remarks. Number one is pleasure. The feeling of being happy or satisfactory, enjoyment rather than work. Then next word is enjoyment. Pleasure or a thing which gives pleasure. Third word is happiness. Is a sense of well-being, joy, or contentment. This is an emotional state characterized by feeling of joy, satisfaction, contentment, and fulfillment. Then there is a word ecstasy, a state of extreme happiness. It is a trance-like state, uh, dissociation from all but the single empowering feeling. This may be rage, grief, love, etc. This feeling can be rage, grief, love, etc. Then there is a word bliss, perfect happiness or complete joy or happiness. So dictionary also has got some difficulty in meanings. Now what JK says? JK has got his own definition, or he has defined it in his own way. He says pleasure is gratification, satisfaction, indulgence, entertainment, stimulation. In brief, I am saying this, all these points. Pleasure is possession. I want to possess something. I want to have something. I see something which I enjoy. So he has clubbed enjoy with this. I see something which I enjoy. I want it. And I want it. See, what is the difference? I see a good scene and I say, how marvelous. I say, how extraordinary. And I say, I must have it again. So now thought comes into picture. So first, when you enjoy, there is a marvelous scene, you enjoy it. At the time of enjoyment, there is nothing. Neither you nor anything, just enjoyment. And you say, afterwards, the thought comes into picture and it says that I want it now. So then it becomes pleasure. And then desire for repetition. So thought gives it nourishment, sustain it, and gives a direction to pleasure. Means I want this thing. When I say I want this thing, means a direction. There was no pleasure at the time of perception. It has nothing to do with you and me. It was there. Then thought comes and demands for that again. So when the scene was there was nothing. There was only enjoyment. But then thought comes into picture and says, I want it. So it becomes pleasure. Actually, that enjoyment, that thing is inexpressible. We are saying it that it is a marvelous thing, or it is, but that is a subsequent development. Original thing is inexpressible. So, is there any relationship between pleasure and enjoyment? Enjoyment becomes pleasure when thought says, I have enjoyed it. I must have more of it. So, pleasure has no relationship to ecstasy, to delight, to enjoyment, or joy and happiness. Pleasure, enjoyment, you enjoy. Joy and happiness, you cannot avoid. Then he says, he clubs joy and happiness with each other. Joy and happiness you cannot invite. It happens and you do not know. If you are happy at that moment, it is only the next moment you say how marvelous that was. So first, when you enjoy it, at that time you feel happiness. And as per JK, there is no it is JK's version. There is no polarity like happiness and unhappiness. It is only happiness. So mind has to understand the nature of thinking. So again, he comes back to the main thing that one has to understand the nature of thinking, because the thought fragments it, or thought divides it, and it says that, and then it becomes pleasure. At the time of enjoyment, there was no fragmentation or division. Mind can never find happiness. It says mind can never find happiness. Happiness is not a thing to be pursued and found as sensation. Now he again links it with the sensation. Sensation can be found again and again, for it is ever being lost, but happiness cannot be found. Here he also links it with time. All this pleasure and other phenomena are time bound. But actually, when he enjoys it, when you enjoy it, at that time also the phenomena is time bound. But he says that, and he converts it into sensation. Sensation can be found again and again, for it is ever being lost, but happiness cannot be found. Remembered happiness is only a sensation, a reaction for or against the present. When you say that I want that happiness or enjoyment again, then that is only the reaction against the present, because present it is not there. What is over is not happiness. Means what is over is not happiness. The experience of happiness which is over is sensation. For remembrance is the past, and the past is sensation. Happiness is not sensation. Recognition is not happiness. To know what it is to be happy is not happiness. What it is to be happy is not happiness. Thought is sensation, and sensation is not happiness. Happiness is not end. Again, he says happiness is not end. You and I have intrinsically the capacity to be happy, to be creative, to be in touch with something that is beyond the clutches of time, source of happiness. So again, here he comes about the for the source of happiness. As Harshad sir said, that there is a source inside you. If you touch that, then there is a permanent happiness. That's what he said. If I compare this with the tradition, tradition also says that the same gradation. First is pleasure, then joy and happiness. Third is satisfaction, means fulfillment. Then fourth is ecstasy, which translate state. Then fifth is bliss. So in tradition also, this is what the a sort of ladder is. We see in this that pleasure is having duality. Happiness is also joy and happiness. It is also, as per my views, it is also time bound. Joy comes and goes. I agree with Harshad sir that it also comes and goes. Happiness, there can be a temporary happiness. But when we say happiness or joy, it has got a relation with satisfaction, contentment, and fulfillment. Then when we say ecstasy, this is extreme happiness. In Bhakti Yoga, they say that there is that the Unmani Avastha start, means no mind. You started going in the no mind state. And bliss, when you are in touch with the other dimension, and and you are in very close with that dimension, then they say that there is a state like bliss, Satchit Anand. Then you start getting Anand, which is bliss. So we see that there is a difficulty in defining this subject because of so many words are having similar meanings and all that. But we can also find out. We have to what could be the means real thing in this. So we can see that when people are not interested in spirituality in their life, normal life, they move in pleasure zone normally, and then this happiness comes. Those who seek happiness and joy, actually you can't seek as per JK, but you don't know that, and you are unhappy, and you don't have the joy. You are having all the other things, but you don't have the joy and happiness. Then you seek for it. So when you seek for it, then you start going in the direction of spirituality. And then all these other things, ecstasy and bliss and all that, outcome of that thing. Even I have never taken the name of Osho, and because I didn't like it because of my personal reasons. But Osho has also defined in the same way. He has also defined it in the same way. Even bliss also he has defined in the same way. And he also said, and JK also said, actually Osho might have repeated it, but he said that this peace and all other things are byproducts of this journey. So you will get byproduct of peace. You will get discipline. You will get harmony. These are all byproducts of this journey. That's what JK also said, and Osho might have repeated it. I do not know, but this is what the thing is. Okay, thank you. We will discuss further afterwards. Thank you.
Anybody more?
Pradeep ji.
Please.
Yes. I am audible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, same thing to different people, realizing their limitedness. So, if we go on repeating those words, then we get trapped in words. And we start that feeling, fumbling feeling that something may be left or something is important left. So, if we can see very in a crisp way what his real message on happiness is, then it is not so many words at all. Although Harshad Bhai has explained most of it, and Dinesh also read number of his quotations. He said that and that number of words. So what happens is you get trapped in the words. So his main message is whether you are seeking happiness, whether you want to know about what happiness is and what gratification is. We all know what gratification is, or know. And what happiness is definitely little enigmatic in that way. So he very clearly said, when we seek happiness through something, then the thing becomes important. You see, thing becomes of greater value than happiness. Something very easy to understand, you see. We seek happiness in family, in name, then happiness is sought through means. You see, when you want to seek happiness through means, these are the means. And then the means destroy the end. You see, when you are using means to achieve happiness, then the end gets destroyed by the means only. And that you know, most of the things are impermanent. You know that they are impermanent, bound to lose. Slowly they lose their value. So ultimately that so-called happiness, which is pleasure or gratification, ends up in displeasure. So this is one thing, very straight he has said about these things. What usually we do, that we want this, and to be happy. Then he said, to find out the true meaning, we must explore the river of self-knowledge. You see, the river of self-knowledge. What we were, most of the time, what we are explaining, what someone said, including JK, or what someone we think has got that realization. You see, so and he was happy. Something like a story, and they were happy thereafter, something like that. So some sort of faith and belief comes in that. So self-knowledge is not an end in itself. Is there a source to a stream? Every drop of water from the beginning to the end makes the river. Imagine that we will find happiness at the source is to be mistaken. It is to be found where you are on the river of self-knowledge. On the river of self-knowledge. You see? So that is very interesting. If you go deep down in his few sentences, you will find your own understanding, your own words, which are much less. Then perhaps you can find gratification in, surely. You cannot find happiness. It is a derivative, a byproduct of something else. The truth of what is happiness will come if I know how to listen. See how he's switching over from this to give you a flavor of that something, which is not a thing, something. So that is one thing. As long as me is separate in any form, you see, this is the greatest ignorance. When we separate ourselves in any way, mine, yours, his opinion, that opinion, he said, and that. So we are separating ourselves all the time. So in a way, we are judges. We are judges also most of the times. So self-knowledge, see, perhaps you can find, this is I have already covered. So this is that easy. If you want to understand what happiness is, it's not time bound. Surely, when you enjoy the enormity Why enormity of Himalayas or the enormity of this or that or river or ocean? In that yourself automatically gets merged. So in a way, he is talking about, or we are able to see it very clearly, then the self gets merged with the whole, then that is not to be expressed in words because there is no one to tell you in words. Probably that is the state he is trying to tell us or share with us. Thank you very much, friends. We'll see if something else comes up. We'll say Prasad ji is waiting.
Please unmute and say.
Namaste, sir. The happiness internet connection is unstable. Sir, happiness is something we all hanker for. We all want it. But in the name of happiness, we pursue pleasure. Pleasure is something which comes through senses. Even happiness has to come only through senses. I want to talk only from my personal experience, not I don't want to talk about something which I don't know, like ecstasy, bliss. These are states which I have never experienced. So I leave them out. Pleasure is something which all of us have experienced. It comes through so many things. By seeing a good cinema, by eating a good dinner, by having sex. All these are our common experiences. There is no life without pleasure. So pleasure is at one stage. That is the normal stage in which most of us live. But then pleasure is not happiness. When you eat a good dinner, you have pleasure. When you have a drink, you have pleasure. But then when you overdrink or overeat, then pleasure becomes pain. So the middle path of Buddha is very sensible. Moderation in everything. That is a sensible way of living. But you can get happiness through certain other things, like if you look at the sunset or a flower without the operation of your brain, then I think you get happiness. So if you exercise your senses without self-consciousness, that is, if you are just looking at something nice, it could be anything, a flower, a sunset, or the face of a woman. If you are just looking, that gives happiness, I think. But then the path of true happiness possibly is only in the statement of JK. That is, when the self is not, the other is. That is the key to so many things. When you have freedom from self, self means so many things. All your Harshad ji has said so many things. He called them snakes, like anger, greed, power mongering, the search for more in everything. That creates pain. The freedom from those, what he called snakes, what Harshad ji has called snakes. The freedom from that is freedom from self. And when the self is not, the other is. The other could be ecstasy, bliss, and all those things, which I don't want to touch those things because they are not within my experience. But they create happiness. That freedom creates a happiness. You are not worried. You are not afraid. You are not anxious about anything. And that Krishnaji calls it living, love, and dying. He says these three are integral, they are connected. So we have attachments, but they may not be what he calls love. We love our children and things like that. Those attachments give us happiness, even though they may not be, even though our self is still there in those attachments, but we can't deny that they give us happiness. So these are relative terms, and the door is through freedom from self. That only gives happiness, or when the freedom is perfect, there could be bliss and ecstasy and things like that, which are not within my experience. Thank you, sir.
Shakti ji.
जी happiness cannot be sought. When it is being sought through remembrance, through imagination, that is pleasure. Pleasure is like artificial happiness. So after listening to Krishnamurti, I felt it is very important to understand the unhappiness, to stay with that state called unhappiness, not to run away from it, and to see if it is possible
to stay with it without interference of thought, because thought becomes an escape. And then perhaps there is a shift, and happiness is not that which it seems to be. Just that I wanted to say. Thank you, sir.
Harshad sir,
Yeah.
any comment?
Okay, I like to comment that we all say that pleasure and pain, they are very much related. When there is a pleasure and pain are two sides of the same coin. But I have a question, that is it possible to have pleasure but without pain? Like if you are listening to a good piece of music, it it gives you a kind of a pleasure or happiness, but there is no pain involved. If you get attached to listening, then it creates pain. But doing a pranayam or yoga or walking in the park or listening to music or reading good books, in that I don't see any pain involved. So maybe it is important to have that kind of pleasure which doesn't create pain. Then life is very enjoyable. And one thing I like to say is that when I was in the Valley School and I was talking with students about what are your priorities in life, and they were 17, 18 years old students, and they said their priorities were uh, academics, then sports, entertainment, and food, eating good food. So all that were giving them a lot of pleasure. Maybe academics not giving pleasure, but necessary, that they need to study to maybe live a pleasurable life in the future. Then I asked them, what about philosophy of living? How do we live every day? And one boy said, sir, that can wait until we are 40. That means the idea is that if you have earned enough money, you are married and you have children, then you will have time to go inside yourself. But I felt that it should be done at a young age. Of course, all those things which students like is necessary for young people to play and entertainment and food and all that important. But at the same time, it is necessary to have a long vision of what kind of life one will have when we become old. That uh, is happiness possible only at a young age, or it is possible to live happily even in the old age when your body is not in a very good state, So that kind of thinking very few people have, but it is necessary. And about uh, happiness is a byproduct, it's true that we can't go after happiness, but when we understand ourselves, self knowledge, as Pradeep ji said, the river of self knowledge. And this knowledge is not something which we can accumulate, but it is going on day after day, moment after moment. So to be in touch with what is happening within us, living with what is, what Krishnamurti would say, a kind of awareness of what is happening. That is very important. And yes, okay. Uh, okay, I think I don't have right now anything to say.
Dinesh Waghmare.
We are playing in words, right? Krishnamurti, if we go exhaustively in the teachings, then we will find that he has given lot of emphasis on the thought. If we remove the thought world, then we get everything. That's what he indicates. And we can see then what happens and what is the dimension which is beyond. We are taking actually different fragmented subjects. Like this time we have taken happiness, last time we have taken other subject, and next every Thursday we are taking different subjects. So this we are trying to study the things in a fragmented way. But in a nutshell, if we see, then if we can give attention to the thought world and see how thought works and what is the structure of thought, then I think many things will be resolved, or we may be in a position to tackle the things. We have to understand, Harshad sir right now said one thing. Is it possible to have this happiness without pain? We have to see one thing. In my views, definitely in my views, in my experience also, this is the game of basically energy. Suppose I am having headache and somebody tells me that we have to go to a party. And if I go to party, then I will not be in a position to enjoy the party. Why? Because I am having already pain in my head. So what I mean to say, if on the contrary, if I am having no pain, I am having a very fresh mood, then I will enjoy the party. So what is this fresh mood, or what is this swinging of mood, or what is this? What is it, the thing which is giving power to mind? So if that power or that energy is positive, then I will be in a position to get happiness from most of the things. And if it is negative, then I may not be in a position to enjoy most of the things. See, if we see the child, he is in a position to enjoy everything, most of the things. Even if we fall down, then also he cries, but then again he comes in very quickly in the mood of playing again in a very quick time. So this depends on the what sort of energy you are having, and that energy, as again and again JK also said, that what is the discipline in your mind, basically. What is the state of your mind? Have you understood the structure of thought? If you have understood the structure of thought, then you can be free from the thought. That doesn't mean the thought will not be there. Thought will be there, but you can use the thought as in when you wish. So these are the things actually ecstasy and bliss. These are the things which comes later on, when the other there is a dawn of the other on you, or say benediction on you, or whatever words he has used. So that's a further state. But beyond, prior to that, if you are able to see the state of your mind, and you can go into the self-knowing, what self-knowledge was, as said by JK. If you can go in self-knowing, and if you can resolve it to a great extent, then things will be different. So, and one thing we have to understand, that in happiness, in my views, personal views, and my experience also, This is a fulfillment. Unless there is a fulfillment of satisfaction, there will not be any happiness. Say, for example, I am thirsty. Then, as soon as I get the glass of water, I will be happy. So, what is the thrust in your mind, basically? That we have to see. And that is different for different people. What they are interested in, basically. So, this depends on the individuality of a person. Whether he is having any what needs he are having, or what desires he is having, whether they are right or wrong. Right in the sense whether they are in the they are good for others also, and there is a flowering in goodness, and then there is a desire and all that, or what. So there are so many things, though, so many factors here we have to consider, and then only we can address such subjects like happiness and this thing. Because this we cannot generalize that happiness will be common for all the people. If it is so, then there will be happiness. Even in this JK has also explained about pleasure, that there can be sarcastic, or there can be a negative pleasure also. So some people will be happy by getting negative pleasures. So it is very we have to really go deep and see the things. Thank you. Any comments from Harshad, sir?
Yes, what you are saying is fine. What I want to say is about unhappiness. When you become unhappy because of some reason, that can also be a source of taking you inner. Like somebody dies, and then you begin to think about what is this life, what is the purpose of it, and then you go into a different direction than just having mindless pleasure. So unhappiness, for some people, it makes them dull. They deteriorate with unhappiness, and some people, they use that unhappiness, if they are wise, to learn more about life, about their own self. So everything is good if we know how to look at it. What is the quality of our life, our mind? And so unhappiness is not to be avoided. It it can give you some insight into what is behind it, when unhappiness comes. So that is, I think that is all I have to say. Yes. And we can get, if our mind and body are in good condition, we can just looking at the trees or flowers, people around, it can become a source of happiness. Birds, we can watch everything without thinking too much about it. And just pure observation is a happiness in which there is no unhappiness or happiness, but a wonderful state in which there is no observer, but observation, pure observation. And Pradeep ji said something about we are trapped in words. That is true. The more articulate, intellectual we are, we can put on more and more words. But this sense of happiness is non-verbal, just like love, beauty, freedom, happiness. These are non-verbal states, they are more subjective. You may be very happy, but people around you may not be happy. So it is a personal, and it depends on the quality of your understanding, environment, many things. And some songs in Hindi, they describe a beautiful state of happiness, like Panchi Banu Udti Firu Masta Gagan Mein. And then later on says, Chand Suraj Sitaro Se Khelo, Apni Baho Mein Akash Le Lo. That means I play with the sun, moon, and stars, and I take the whole sky in my arms. So that is an ecstasy, a great sense of joy where there is a real freedom. And so such thing also possible for human beings. That is what they call samadhi in Indian philosophy, which is a state in which there is a quite different state altogether, and one even the body function stops, even the breathing and the heartbeat stops. A doctor who came to Ramakrishna, and the doctor was amazed that Ramakrishna could live in that state of samadhi for a long period where there was no heartbeat, no breathing. So amazing things possible for human beings. But I like Krishna's approach that without understanding ourselves clearly, we cannot be happy. We can, when we understand, watch clearly our own mind, we begin to know how we are creating unhappiness by our reactions. And so we have to slow down to watch the mind very, very clearly. And then we may not need much effort also. Initially, one needs to make a lot of effort to sit down. When we are benefiting from watching inward, then it becomes a natural state that we watch ourselves without any effort. But that comes later. I think initially one has to make a lot of effort. If there is no comment, we can stop.
Yes,
If
Ghost,
people
yes,
want to
yes.
speak, yeah.
Pradeep ji, then Ghouse Pasha ji.
So a few sentences about this thing. While listening to all that, something struck me that it is all of us should know that Krishnamurti never condemned anything,
Mm.
never condemned anything. Although his approach was via negativa, through negation to reach the positive, and that might have happened because we were all the time interested in the fragments. What is this? What is that? Comparing with them. So that way, he will go on saying, it is not this, it is not this. If you say it is, he will say, no, it is not this. Naturally, this is little difficult to understand why he chose this path of negation, so-called negation, whereas he never condemned anything. He had undergone all sorts of experiences to my reading, because I haven't met him. But whatever I know about his life, he enjoyed all those things. Virtually complete man. Complete man he was, in a way. Although his expectations or his ambitions or his, because he had created educational institutions of a great caliber. So whether to achieve that must have been a concern to him. But otherwise, he was a man really who was not happy at all, less than whole, less than the world. So that's why we have to understand. He usually he used a very beautiful word, not merely this. You see, when he's talking about something which appeared to be against sensitivity or senses, it's not merely sensitivity, merely senses. So he never negated even that. He understood the importance of all these bodily associated psychosomatic, whatever instruments we were working with, and the suffering, everything he had undergone. So we have to go a little deeper. What thought I must share with my friends. Thank you. Thank you.
Ghouse
Pasha
Pasha ji.
is waiting.
Ghouse Pasha ji.
Hello, am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Okay, I would like to make two simple points regarding this topic. Now, I know only two states. If I, if we plan anything in our mind, if we get that
Not
thing,
audible.
Yeah,
okay.
not audible.
Hello,
Yeah,
Ah,
hello, okay.
yeah, yes.
Uh,
Yeah. Speak little
now,
louder. Yeah.
in my life, I know only two kind of things. If I desire for something, and if I achieve it, there is a kind of happiness in it. And there is one more in the same pattern. There is opposite. That is, if I don't get it, I feel sad. I know these two things very clearly. I know these two things. If I desire something, if I get what I wanted, I will feel happy. If I don't get, I will feel sad. These two things I know very clearly. Now, I also know the somewhat different things, that sometimes when we are in nature, the sunset which we see, when we are seeing a sunset, suddenly a type of contentment comes into our heart. In relationship, suddenly sometimes happens that a meaningful moment arises and we feel so content when that meaningful moment is happening. Uh, I'm not sure if we can place that feelings in the first pattern which I have said. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to make comment on what Gauss said, that when you get something which you want, you feel happy, but it will be not happy for a long period. The thing which you get, it will become very ordinary after some time. Like if you buy a car, initially you are happy, but then you want something more. So this satisfaction which you get by getting what you want it is not for a long period. It will lose its importance after you get it. And other thing, what I like to say about Pradeep ji, that Krishna ji did not condemn, but I think Krishna ji spoke against the methods and methods of meditation, and he felt that that cannot help, but other traditional groups like Buddhist and Zen and Upanishad Hindu, they have methods which help people to quiet down the mind. Krishnamurti's approach is very good, but it is very difficult for most people to just look inward without um, any method. People who are introvert, maybe they can look, but for most people, I find they say that Krishnamurti is very difficult. They read Krishnamurti and they immediately fall asleep. They don't understand anything. So Krishnamurti's approach is good for people who have come to a certain level, maturity, and then they can understand what Krishnamurti is saying. So Krishnamurti is not for the beginners, I feel. People who have studied many other philosophy and have become mature, like Buddhists, then they find in Krishnamurti something very challenging. But otherwise, it is not so easy. Okay.
Adeen,
Yeah. So I don't know whether the topic chosen today is correct. First of all, I am not sure about it. There are so many people who talk about happiness, and I wonder whether it is at all useful to listen to people talking about happiness. Everyone says, do this, do that, and you'll be happy. So, yeah. So you want to show me a carrot so that I'll follow what you want to say, what you are saying. I don't know whether I should follow the carrots. Probably I become a donkey following carrots. Yeah. So yeah, of course, but there's so many carrots. Even in the office, they'll say, "You do this, you'll be happy." Everywhere it was like that. And people keep talking about happiness. But yeah, I don't know whether it's worthwhile to do that. And yeah, why to label something, you know? And it is what it is. My mind is what it is. Why should I label and someone says, yeah, do this and it's happiness or it's unhappiness? It is whatever it is. Why should I judge it? Why should I label it? I will rather be free and unhappy than follow, someone's idea of what I should do. And yeah, sometimes it's a cruel joke, I would say, to talk about happiness. You won't go someone's house, someone has died. Will you go and talk about happiness? You just want to. It's not a. I think the topic itself is not a really. It's very superficial topic because you don't try to understand. You want to show some path. You don't try to understand what is actually happening. You don't live with what you are. Yeah. So I'm not sure. I don't actually agree with the topic of today's meeting. Yeah, that's all I want to say. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. May I respond to that?
Yeah.
This topic, happiness, is similar to love or beauty or freedom, and these are the topics also we decide. But what I'm trying to say, that we have to look at the unhappiness, understand it, to be free from unhappiness, because then only happiness is possible. So the whole our discussion was about what is it that makes us unhappy, and whether it is possible to see those factors which are making. Then happiness is a byproduct, as we have said, that happiness is a byproduct of understanding ourselves as we are. And so everything is related to everything else in this field. Only we give some title, we concentrate on that, but everything is related. Love, beauty, happiness, freedom, everything is related. So, and these are non-verbal actually, these states. We can talk about unhappiness, and those is possible. So, maybe the title in Adeen's view on understanding unhappiness instead of happiness. That would you be happy with that kind of title, understanding unhappiness? Okay, thank you.
Shakti ji.
It is because Harshad ji talked about a few lines of Hindi film songs. So I remembered these two lines of Sahid Sahab. गम और खुशी को फर्क ना महसूस हो जहां मैं दिल को उस मकाम पे लाता चल. Thank you, sir.
Dinesh ji, one last
Yeah.
comment from you. Then
What I
Harshad.
would like, yes, what I would like to say to Adeen, that's why we always talk about individuality. Individual has, even JK has said the same thing, and other people have said the same thing. In self-knowing, you have to understand that you are having some body needs, you are having some emotional needs, you are having some feeling needs, you are having some intellectual needs. So you have to fulfill them. Then only the total satisfaction will come to you. And on and above, there is a spiritual need. So you have to see, basically. He has given a general topic on happiness, but one has to see what are his ardent desires, what are his cravings and all that, and why it is so. Question it. You have to question that why it is so. Then I think you can justify the subject and you can talk on the subject. Thank you.
Okay.
Harshad sir, do you want to say something? Last word.
No, we can close it. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks everybody. So
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
we have to end the meeting.
Yeah.